Hello everyone and welcome to Rollin'-ish. I'm Matt, and in this video we're looking at Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is a somewhat recent release around the 2020-2021 timeframe and is a supplement to the 2014 Player's Handbook. In it are several options and features, including additional subclasses offered for all the classes listed in the 2014 Player's Handbook. Due to the recent release of the 2024 Player's Handbook, we're taking a retrospective look back at Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Guide to Everything for those players who might be new and not really understand the difference between the version 5e in 2014 and the new release of 2024. So this will help them get acclimated as to what was available, and they can choose from themselves which player's handbook they want to use. Also, it's just a nice retrospective look as to what we were offered from 5th edition versus what is being released now in the 2024 Player's Handbook and what might come beyond. If you haven't done so already, check out our class playlist. There you're going to find an intro to all the classes, and that's going to explain what your character can get levels 1 through 20 in that class. We also dive into all the subclasses offered by the Player's Handbook and the features you get with those specifically. We also have videos that talk about the subclasses offered by Xanathar's Guide to Everything. You might find the tag XGtE in the name of those videos, much like this one has the TCoE, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything tag, in the name of the video as well. So diving into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we're looking at the two options for subclasses provided to the fighter, which are going to be the Psi Warrior and the Rune Knight. The Psi Warrior, in my opinion, is going to be somewhat close to a Jedi. In my opinion, it might be the closest subclass to the Jedi in Star Wars that you're going to find in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So maybe there was an academy that you went to in your backstory where you learned these powers from, or maybe you had a solo mentor, much like Luke had Obi-Wan, for something like this. These are very much going to dive into mental powers and how to manipulate objects with your mind. So if that's something that you're interested in, Psi Warrior might be a subclass that you look into. The first thing that you're going to get when you choose this subclass at 3rd level is an understanding of your psionic power. This is going to represent itself as psionic energy dice. At 3rd level, these are going to be D6s. Sometimes the powers require you to roll this D6 and add your intelligence modifier, which is why if you're going to pick this subclass, you might want to put a lot of stock into your intelligence modifier. And I know that if you looked at our intro to Fighter and some of the other subclass options, we talk a lot about picking strength or dexterity as your primary ability score based on the weapon you plan on wielding. Now, while that is still true, you might not want to consider the other strength or dexterity as your second highest, or maybe constitution as your second highest. If you want to play this subclass, it would be wise to focus maybe on intelligence as your first or second highest ability modifier, because a lot of your psionic power is going to use your intelligence ability stat. Now, in addition to your psionic energy die, a good thing to know is that you regain all your expended psionic energy dice when you finish a long rest. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain 1 expended psionic energy die, but you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So in this case, you might want to take a short rest to be able to replenish your ability to get one of these back. Or if you need them all, it's going to take you that long rest. What's important to also know is that when you reach certain levels in this subclass, your psionic energy die is going to increase. For example, it starts with a D6 at level 3, but it increases to a D8 at level 5, to a D10 at level 11, and to a D12 at level 17. There are 3 different, we'll call them special moves, that you can do with your psionic energy. The first being Protective Field. When you or another creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to expend 1 psionic energy die. Roll the die and reduce the damage taken by the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier as you create a momentary shield of telekinetic force. I rolled a 3. Let's pretend my intelligence modifier is a +3. That would give me a 6 that I can reduce the damage by using my Protective Field. Maybe instead I choose Psionic Strike. Once on each of your turns, immediately after you hit a target within 30 feet of you with an attack and deal damage to it with a weapon, you can expend 1 psionic energy die, rolling it and dealing force damage to the target equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. Again, I rolled a 3. Maybe my intelligence modifier is a 3. That is 6 additional force damage that I can deal when I hit with my weapon. It's like putting your energy into your weapon, which allows you to do that extra damage. Third, you have telekinetic movement. You can move an object or a creature with your mind. As an action, You target one loose object that is large or smaller, or one willing creature other than yourself. You can see, if you can see the target and it's within 30 feet of you, you can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it is a tiny object, you can move it to or from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. Once you take this action, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Or you can expend an unused psionic energy die to do it again after the first time. The first time is a freebie, so to speak. So telekinetic movement is a good way. It's kind of like moving something with the Force. I think back of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, where Anakin is showing off to Padme and he's moving the fruit around at the table while they're eating. It's kind of like that, okay? At 7th level, you get a feature called Telekinetic Adept. You get new options in addition to these 3. The first one being Psi-Powered Leap. As a bonus action, you can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of your current turn. Once you take this bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you use an unused psionic energy die to do it again. So for those of you with wee little legs, like our dwarves have a walking speed of 25, this Psi-Powered Leap would give you a fly speed of 50 feet. So this would be pretty cool until the end of your current turn. And think about it like a leap. You're not going to fly, you're not going to float, you're not going to hover, but that fly speed is just a ridiculous like Jedi jump. Again, this is why I keep aligning this to Star Wars. The second one is Telekinetic Thrust. When you deal damage to a target with your psionic strike, now remember, that is this option here, right? You can basically imbue your weapon with a psionic force. After you hit a target within 30 feet, you roll your psionic energy die, plus your intelligence modifier is force damage. When you do that, when you hit with that, you can force the target to also make a strength saving throw against a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. There it is again. If the save fails, you can knock the target prone or move it up to 10 feet in any direction horizontally. You're not going to raise them up into the air, okay? So you can stack that. So you can psionic strike, and then if you're 7th level and you have this feature, telekinetic thrust. Pretty cool. At 10th level, you get something called Guarded Mind. You have resistance to psychic damage, and if you start your turn charmed or frightened, you can expend a psionic energy die, and every effect on yourself subjecting you to those conditions ends. That's pretty cool because when you get this at 10th level, when you're a 10th level character, you are dealing with some very high level monsters, many of which have psychic abilities that are similar to this. Or they have an ability called Frightful Presence, where just being near them, like a dragon, would cause you to become frightened if you fail a saving throw. And that could cause you to run away because you're afraid and really just mess up combat for your team. The ability to end that at the start of your turn just because you have Guarded Mind is very, very important at higher levels like 10th level when you get this. So this is a really great feature to have. At 15th level, you get something called Bulwark of Force. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures, which can include you, that you can see within 30 feet, up to a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. So again, the higher that intelligence modifier, the higher amount of creatures you can utilize the Bulwark of Force. What it does is each of the chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. What's half cover, you say? It gives you a +2 bonus to your AC and a +2 bonus to your dexterity saving throws. So it's almost like you're covered by a half wall or only half your body is exposed, so it would limit the damage. That's a very cool feature to have, especially because the range is up to 30 feet and I can include a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. So if I've got an intelligence modifier of 4, I can grab myself and 3 other people. Maybe I'm in a 4-person party. That's perfect. So that's just something to consider. Once you take this bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, or you can expend an unused psionic energy die to do it again. Remember, the first time is a freebie. At 18th level, you get Telekinetic Master. This means that you can cast the 5th level spell, Telekinesis, requiring no components, and your spellcasting ability for the spell is Intelligence. Here it shows up again. This is why I say put a lot of stock in this if you're going to take this subclass. Maybe make it your highest ability score, or at least your second highest ability score. Your choice. That's just a recommendation. On each of your turns while you concentrate on this spell, including the turn when you cast it, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. Because it requires your action to cast and concentrate on this. You're a fighter, you should be fighting. So to not waste your turn doing something like this, it allows you that weapon attack as a bonus action. When you cast the spell with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend an unused psionic energy die to do so. So what is telekinesis? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look. It's a 5th level spell, concentration for 10 minutes, and essentially you can move or manipulate creatures or objects with your thoughts. When you cast the spell, and as your action each round for the duration, you exert your will upon a creature or object that you can see within range being 60 feet. So what happens if you choose creature? You can try and move a huge or smaller creature. You're going to make an ability check. Remember, it told us that it was going to use intelligence, so your intelligence contested by the creature's strength check. You're trying to move them unwillingly, so they have an opportunity to use their strength to resist you moving them with your mind. If you win the contest, you move the creature up to 30 feet in any direction, including upward, but not beyond the range of the spell. What that means is you want to move them back 10 feet and up 20 feet. That's 30 feet total. You can do that, just as long as you don't exceed the 30 total feet of movement. Okay. Until the end of your next turn, the creature is restrained. This means that their speed is 0, attacks against that creature have advantage, and the creature's got disadvantage on dex saving throws because they're restrained by your mind. It's almost like a claw has them gripped and holding them in place. A creature that is lifted upward is suspended in midair. On subsequent rounds, you can use your action to maintain that telekinetic grip, or in doing so, you require them to repeat the throw. So it would be your intelligence check against their strength check on subsequent turns. Or you can end it. And if you end it, you're going to drop them. And if they're 20 feet up in the air and you drop them, it's a d6 for every 10 feet they fall. So 2d6. I just rolled a 3 and a 6. That's 9 bludgeoning damage they're going to take from the fall. Just an example. Let's talk about objects. You can try and move an object that weighs up to 1,000 pounds. If the object isn't being worn or carried, you automatically move it up to 30 feet in any direction, but not beyond the range of 30 feet. If the object is worn or carried, you must make your intelligence check against that creature's strength check, because it's on their person. It might be strapped. It might be fastened in some way, like a backpack or a shield or a bow slung across their back. They have that opportunity to feel that happening and try and hang on. So it's going to be your intelligence, you using your mind to move it, versus their strength to hold on to it. Okay. If you succeed, you pull the object away from that creature and can move it up to 30 feet in any direction, but not beyond the range of the spell. So being worn or carried, and I'm fighting a creature that's got a shield, and I know that like we need to get that shield away, I might move that shield and move it 30 feet. Hopefully there's a canyon or a chasm or a bridge that I can throw it off of and make that enemy easier to hit. That would be a really good use of this spell. Maybe I move a boulder in place of a doorway, or I move something heavy on a trap door to keep it shut. Those are some things that you can do with your mind that doesn't require your whole party trying to push or pull or heave something heavy in the way. You can exert fine control over objects with your telekinetic grip, such as manipulating a simple tool, like a hammer, a screwdriver, a saw, opening a door or a container, like Mage Hand would do, stowing or retrieving an item from an open container, or pouring the contents from a vial. So if you don't have something like Mage Hand, your telekinetic movement from this spell could really come in handy. Again, that is telekinesis, and the reason we're talking about that spell is you get one use of it as telekinetic master at 18th level. So this is a really cool class that you can play. Very much gives me the Jedi vibes. The other one is the Rune Knight. So a Rune Knight is going to be someone, the art of carving a rune and reading a magical rune in this game stems or comes from giants. Typically giants are who does this, so maybe you spent some time with a tribe of giants and you picked up this skill. Or maybe you were apprentice for somebody that worked for or near a tribe of giants who had this skill and can do that for them. That is a good way to craft that into your background. Maybe you stumbled across runes in a cave or on a rock wall somewhere, and it got you so intrigued to find out what those were that you dove into study and dove into books to find out what that is. All good ways to craft this into your backstory. At 3rd level, when you choose Rune Knight, you get proficiency in Smith's tools, because you gotta carve those runes with something, and you can speak, read, and write Giant as a language. You also get a feature called Rune Carver. You learn 2 runes of your choice from the runes that are described below, and we'll look at those in a second. And each time you gain a level in this class, you can replace one rune you know with a different one from the list. So if you chose 2 and you don't really like one of them, and you level up to 4, swap one of them out. You can do that as you gain levels. Also, when you gain certain levels, you get to have more options to use. So at 3rd level, you're going to be able to do 2 runes. But at 7th level, you get 3. At 10th level, you get 4. And at 15th level, you get 5. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch a number of objects equal to the number of runes you know, and you inscribe a different rune onto each of the objects. To be eligible, an object must be a weapon, a suit of armor, a shield, a piece of jewelry, or something else that you can wear or hold in your hand. Your rune remains on an object until you finish a long rest, and an object can bear only one of your runes at a time, so you can't stack them on one item. The following runes are available to you when you learn a rune, and if a rune has a level requirement, you at least have to be that level in order to use it. If a rune requires a saving throw, your rune magic save DC is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. So let's take a look at some of the runes and what they do. The first one is called Cloud Rune. A rune emanates the deceptive magic used by some cloud giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on dexterity or sleight of hand checks and deception checks. In addition, when you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and choose a different creature within 30 feet of you other than the attacker. So it could be another enemy. It could be one of your teammates who can take the blow, maybe preventing someone from going unconscious. That would be helpful. The chosen creature becomes the target of the attack using the same roll. That's important because now if I target, let's say, my cleric or paladin who's probably wearing heavy armor and has a much higher AC than me as a fighter, maybe that attack with that same roll doesn't hit them and it becomes a miss. That is a very, very great rune to have at your disposal, especially if you are in a campaign that's going to encounter a lot of combat. This magic can transfer the attack's effects regardless of the attack's range. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So once you use the rune on that object, it's like the light goes out and you can't use it again. But remember, at 3rd level, you have a second rune. What rune is on that object? Let's take a look at some of the other runes. There's one called Fire Rune. The rune's magic channels the masterful craftsmanship of great smiths. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses your proficiency with a tool, like those smith's tools. In addition, when you hit a creature with an attack using a weapon, you can invoke the rune to summon fiery shackles. The target takes an extra 2d6 fire damage, and it must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained for 1 minute. Now remember, restrained is they have 0 speed, attacks against them have advantage, dexterity saving throws made by them are at disadvantage. While restrained by the shackles, the target takes 2d6 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. So once when you hit them, and again at the start of each of their turns while they're restrained by those flaming shackles, because they're continuing to burn. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, banishing the shackles on a success. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Maybe you choose the Frost Rune. This magic invokes the might of those who survive in the wintry wilderness, such as frost giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on animal handling checks and intimidation checks. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action to increase your sturdiness. For 10 minutes, you gain a +2 bonus to all ability checks and saving throws that use strength or constitution. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Maybe you choose the Stone Rune. The judiciousness associated with stone giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on insight checks and have dark vision up to a range of 120 feet. In addition, when a creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and force the creature to make a wisdom saving throw. Unless the save succeeds, the creature is charmed by you for 1 minute. While charmed in this way, the creature has a speed of 0 and is incapacitated, descending into a dreamy stupor. The creature repeats the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Frankly, that's the only thing it can do on its turn, ending the effect on a success. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. That's like taking somebody out of combat for like a minute, or out of a situation for like a minute, because they're incapacitated. You can't do anything but make the saving throw. That is good crowd control. if you find that your party is equally or outnumbered in an encounter. Hill Rune. You have to be 7th level or higher to even use this one as an option, but it comes from Hill Giants. While wearing or carrying an object that bears this rune, you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance against poison damage. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute, so it's kind of like rage. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. That's pretty cool. Can't be poisoned, has resistance to poison damage, and then perhaps as a bonus action, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing for a minute. So I get resistance to 4 things. I like that a lot. Storm Rune. Again, have to be 7th level or higher. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on Arcana checks and can't be surprised as long as you're not incapacitated. In addition, as you invoke the rune as a bonus action to enter a prophetic state for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. Until the state ends, when you or a creature you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check, you can use your reaction to cause the roll to have advantage or disadvantage. Once you use this rune, can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Many different options here. So this gives this much versatility. At 3rd level, you can choose 2. So you've got Cloud Rune, Fire Rune, Frost Rune, Stone Rune to choose from. Okay, once you get to 7th level, you get to know 3. And in addition to the 4 I just named, that's when Hill Rune and Storm Rune become available as an option. You can pick a 3rd option. You can take one of those 3 and swap one out. Remember, anytime you level up, so from 3rd to 4th, let's say you had Cloud Rune and Fire Rune and you're not really finding Fire Rune suits you, swap it out for Frost Rune. You can do that. Very cool. Also at 3rd level, you get Giant's Might. As a bonus action, you magically gain the following benefits that last for a minute. If you're smaller than large, you become large, along with anything you're wearing. If you lack the room to become large, your size doesn't change. If you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws because you're bigger. Once on each of your turns, one of your attacks with a weapon or an unarmed strike can deal an extra 1d6 damage to a target on the hit. Because you're bigger, there's much more force coming from behind that swing. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That is called Giant's Might. It's like almost making you a giant for a short time. At 7th level, you get a feature called Runic Shield. When another creature you can see within 60 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to re-roll the d20 and use the new roll. This could potentially turn a crit into a normal hit or hit into a miss, but they got to use the new roll. Be careful, because if they have a hit, let's say they rolled an 18 and that hits you, and you're forcing them to re-roll, they have to use the new roll. What if they critically hit you now? That's a way that could backfire. All right, still good though, still worth it. Great Stature is a 10th level feature. When you gain this feature, roll 3d4. You grow a number of inches in height equal to the roll. Moreover, the extra damage you deal with your Giant's Might feature is increased to 1d8. So instead of a d6 behind my swings, I get a d8 behind my swings. That's actually really cool. I've got a Paladin who's 6 foot tall. I know this is not a Paladin feature, but just for example's sake, I rolled a 4, a 3, and a 4. That's 11. So he could technically grow 11 inches. That's crazy. When you gain this feature. So it's always like you just grow and that's your new height, the end. So for you dwarves and halflings who might take a Rune Knight, that's really cool, because essentially that could put you from, like, in my mind as a DM, I would allow this, from small to medium. Increase your walking speed from 25 to 30. I would allow that if you grew to a certain height. That's a fun way to play a feature like this. I love that the Giant's Might feature increases to a d8. That's cool, because you're more skilled now. It just makes sense. Master of Runes at 15th level. You can invoke each rune you know from your Rune Carver feature twice rather than once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a short or long rest. I like that a lot. Now it's allowing me to use my features more frequently, and that's always a bonus. Okay, Runic Juggernaut, 18th level. You learn how to amplify your rune-powered transformation. As a result, the extra damage you deal with Giant's Might increases to a d10. Love that. Moreover, when you use that feature, your size can increase to huge, and while you are that size, your reach increases by 5 feet. Oh, man. So, a 10-foot reach. Or let's say you're a bugbear. Bugbears by race have a 10-foot reach. If I'm a bugbear Rune Knight and I'm 18th level, my reach just went from 10 to 15. That's unbelievable. You're literally Chewbacca. Sorry, another Star Wars reference. Or Planet of the Apes, in a sense. I love that very much. All right, my friends. That is the Psi Warrior and the Rune Knight. In our next video, we're going to tackle the features that you get from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything with the new subclasses from that book for the Monk class. Until then, keep rolling those dice, and we'll see you at the table.